Here he is. He can't hear us.
Hello, Mom.
I need to mute myself. Here I go. You look good, everybody. Thankfully, I don't have my video.
Okay. All right, so heads up to everyone coming in the meeting. We are also streaming live directly to our YouTube channel. So this is kind of a heads up. I'll kind of remind that again in a couple of minutes when we start the presentation. So before we start, we're gonna let kind of everyone roll in, but we do have a few questions to ask our participants who are here. So wait, okay, you're seeing this. So wait, are you seeing the presentation, right? Yes?
We're seeing the notes.
Yes. Yeah.
Outline
Okay,
notes.
I'm sharing the wrong screen. Here we go. Now you're seeing the presentation. Couldn't have you seen the secret sauce of the notes. All right, so while everyone rolls in, we ask that you mute your mic for now, but we will be using the chat feature to ask the Q&A chat feature to ask a few questions to our participants, like our viewers, while they roll in. So everyone in the Zoom chat, I'm going to ask a question and there's going to be a corresponding number for an answer. So how did you hear about this event? Answer 1, if you are affiliated with LTU or you're an LTU student. 2, if you know one of the designers, either your family or friends. Or 3, you heard about us through Design Core or elsewhere. Oh no. All right. And we have, our next question would be, where are you signing in from? 1 would be the Detroit metro area, and 2 would be elsewhere. This is the first time that Detroit Design Month is having a lot of digital events. So we would like to see if people are coming in from Detroit or signing in from elsewhere. And that's a cool opportunity because this is the first time that Detroit Design Month is visible to people outside of Detroit. All right, those. And we have one last question before we start off the presentation. And is it, don't worry, we will not get mad at you if you haven't. Have you had a chance to visit our website yet? Because it went live today. I want to see if anyone has seen it yet. Okay, so I think we have a good amount of people here. So we're going to start off the event. So one more time for everyone who has recently joined, we are streaming directly live to our YouTube channel. So that's just letting you know. I'm going to double check how that's going. All right. That's good. Okay, so go. So hello and welcome to Amateur Hour. Amateur Hour is an LTU design event that has been curated and features only student work that has been made by students and has been curated and run entirely by LTU students. So without further ado, the leadership team will introduce ourselves. Hello, I am Alessandro Pagura. Claire and I co-founded this gallery way back in February, March, and submitted it to Design Core. So currently, my official title for this gallery is the man with the big picture plan.
My name is Claire. I am the executive big brain behind this, kind of helping Alex to formulate his big picture plans into reality.
Hi, everybody. My name is Evelyn, and I'm the organizational guru, which means that all of their big ideas, I make sure that they're organized so that they actually happen and they happen on time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kara, and I took care of the branding, graphics, and the website for the event.
All right. Actually, can we go through? We didn't say our majors. I am an industrial design major. I'm a senior.
I am also industrial design senior.
I'm a dual graphic design and business major, and this is my second year.
I am a junior in the graphic design program.
So this exhibition has been completely formulated and run by students, including the four of us, and it features work from a variety of disciplines across the COAD, which is the College of Architecture and Design. We have industrial designers, graphic designers, architecture students, interior architecture students.
TV for a second.
People from all over the COAD have come together to use their pieces of physical work in this exhibition.
All right. So next slide. Okay, so how it all started. So way back in February, March time, our Claire and I's professor, Nurse Saltic, who is the head of industrial design at LTU, as well as the head of Form and Seek Design Studio, we kind of all talked, and we had never had a Lawrence Tech official Design Month event, at least not one that I can remember. So the vision started out with, we wanted to have a really interesting event that showed the incredible work that Lawrence Tech students do, both in class and in their free time. So we started planning with that. We did all the standard design course stuff of like we have to submit. And this year, in the middle of that whole, the submitting to design corps and coming back, this little thing called the coronavirus started and changed all of our lives. So originally we wanted to have an all in-person standard Design Month event, and I'm sure that any of you who have seen a Design Month event before or attended know so well. They're awesome, they're special. It's a great gathering of people. Sadly, those very things are not allowed right now. So we had to entirely rethink our event, how we were going to present it. So we had to be super adaptable. And midway through the summer, through our planning process, Claire and I met Evelyn and Kara, who have been such an awesome help and have helped us out so much. So the four of us really have been able to adapt to these crazy situations and really be able to do some amazing stuff. So we changed from an entirely physical event that we wanted to have, that there wasn't going to be like almost any digital presence for, but maybe a marketing into something that we had to make into a half digital experience, because we want people to, maybe who don't feel safe coming to the gallery, to see the work, see who has been featured. And then we also wanted to still maintain a physical event, which we had to make some changes for. We had to allow for distancing in the space. There has to be a limited amount. So we really had to be adaptable for this. And Evelyn will talk to you about what we chose to do with that.
So because of the coronavirus, we were able to make this a really unique experience that hasn't been done before. So our event is actually in two parts. We have the physical exhibition and the virtual experience. So if you want to go and see the works in person, you can. And you can go and see that at the DCDT downtown in Detroit at Lawrence Tech's other campus. But if you aren't comfortable going, or you just can't figure out logistically how to do it because you're halfway across the country, you can see all of the work online. So we have our website, and on our website, you have a page for all of the designers, and you can read about their stories and you can read about them. And then also, we're having a YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, we are going to release podcasts. And those podcasts are going to be on each of the designers and kind of the story behind their work and all of the little tips and tricks that go along with being a designer. So like I said before, we have our YouTube channel, and you can view it there. We're going to be releasing podcasts 3 times a week. And then you can also go to the website. And on the website, As I said before, you can see the designers, you can see the layout of the space, and you can also register to go and see the event in person. And then finally, we have our Instagram. On our Instagram, we're going to highlight each of the pieces and we're going to highlight all of our designers. And then once we release the podcasts, we're going to let people know that the podcasts have been released on the Instagram.
So one way that we wanted to try to marry the digital and the physical experience of the event was to create this map of the space so that whether you're seeing the event on the website or in person, the first introduction you have to the space is this map that helps you navigate.
All right, so now we are going to transition into the next portion of our presentation. So we will be featuring the student designers here, and they can tell you about their work. And after each designer, we will have a small Q&A. So this small Q&A will only pertain to the designer that has just presented. Any questions about the gallery, how we did this event, will be at the end. So again, these questions, you can unmute yourself when the designer is done speaking and ask a question about their work, but all of the major gallery questions and other like assorted just random questions will be at the end. All right, so our first designer up is Gabrielle Larkin.
Hello, I'm Gabrielle. I am a senior industrial designer at Lawrence Tech, and this piece in this exhibition, is a bag series titled XYZ bags because the straps are lettered like XYZ. The main inspiration from this was kind of looking at the end of the alphabet and how I liked the way how geometrical and I liked the way these letters are. And I also just like the idea of XYZ. It's kind of like another etc. almost like when you're explaining something. I know in my early designer days, whenever I was creating a file and I had to save new files on top, it'd pretty much be like final, or final XYZ or V2, V3, crazy. And so it kind of goes to that like organization almost. And I thought that the lettering and the typography would look kind of cool as straps on bags. And so these are the second version of the bags. The first prototypes were created last fall and it was great. It was like a fun experience because when I was remaking these bags, this was my first time sewing for this project. So I'm not the expert sewer. My grandma actually is. And so it was fun because during COVID and everything, even though I couldn't be near her, it was a fun experience to still like work with her and collaborate with her to make them look even more professional, more fluid. And so these are the bags that I designed. And also to preface, it starts there 3 tote bag, a messenger bag, and a pencil case. So X is the tote bag, the messenger bag is the Y bag, and the pencil case is the Z bag. Thank you.
So does anyone have any questions for Gabby? If you do, unmute yourself and ask a question.
Why'd you make the straps yellow?
That was kind of a branding direction, mainly because the goal of the project when it was presented to my class was pretty much create a series. So it could have been anything, and being a part of a series is they're obviously not going to look the same, but they have to be cohesive. And so I thought with a yellow and black contrast, it could kind of really make it pop and really make them more unified as like one series with 3 different purposes. And also I was kind of like going off of the streetwear where it's like very high contrast and also kind of like the construction feel as well. Like when you're walking down like a street like Detroit and there's like it's summertime and there's construction everywhere in the downtown area. So that was kind of the inspiration with going for yellow.
When you were prototyping and designing the bags, did you find yourself like going to the store and like like measuring bags and like seeing how they're constructed, or was the process like intuitive?
Yeah, so since I had never sewn before, the first part of the process was kind of just looking up a YouTube tutorial of like, oh, like how do you sew? Like especially a bag. I just knew I wanted to go in more of a soft good direction because I had yet to do that in my 3 years at being a designer. And so it started off actually kind of just learning like the basics of how to sew a bag, and then also looking at the dimension of existing bags. And also I actually used my laptop, my HPZ book as a reference because I knew I wanted definitely the messenger bag to be able to fit that with ease. And so that was like kind of how I went about the dimensions and sizing and making it the sizes that I wanted.
What materials did you test for your bags?
So with the first round of prototyping, so like my very first round of sewing, I just found some like not the best material at all, like just like something fabric that would go in a sewing machine. And then as I continued, I started off with more like just the basic lining to get a feel for the sewing machine and understanding like tension and the bobbin pin and all like the components of that. And then as I had gone through like the more final stages of prototyping with bags, you want more of like a duck canvas, something like that's more durable and that can have some wear and tear to it, and that will take some wear and tear to it, so it won't completely unravel, unlike if I were just use a lining fabric or the really light fabric initially. So I really looked for canvas and nylon straps for the materiality. And then also on the interior of the bags, it has a double lining. So there's actually a cotton lining on the inside for it to be soft. So it's kind of more durable.
All right. Any more questions?
Oh,
Oh, go.
how did this concept came about? Like, how did you start your project? What was the brief?
So the brief was pretty much open-ended of design a series. So I initially thought to myself, it was a short project as well. I believe it was like 4 or 6 weeks, sometime in between that span. So it was a heavy turnover there. And so I decided I had never worked with soft goods before. And so with a very short project, this would be a good opportunity to kind of like dive into that realm. And so I initially started thinking about fanny packs because again, I was looking at like streetwear inspiration, and those are pretty big on streetwear right now. But then the idea of making 3 fanny packs as someone who has never sewn before could possibly be a little daunting because there's fanny packs, the ones I was thinking about anyways, that had multiple layers and it's all heavy material. Most of the time it's heavy material. And so that's when I kind of started looking into, oh, let's start with like more of a simpler bag, like a tote, and look into those simpler form factors just for craftsman's sake. So like I could, because also the goal of the project is you produce 3 physical prototypes, and I wanted to produce 3, I didn't want to fail. So I wanted to be able to meet that goal and kind of be realistic in that timeline. And so with that, then that's kind of how it came about with the tote bag, the messenger, and the pencil case, because they were form factor wise, they're pretty basic. And with learning to sew, it was more accomplishable opposed to like creating 3 different versions of like fanny packs or other bags as well. I would like to tackle a fanny pack now though, since that kind of kickstarted the idea of bags and wearables.
So you bring up an interesting point about not having enough time or didn't want to fail. If you gave yourself enough time to actually fail, what type of material did you like to work with?
Sorry, I couldn't fully hear your question. Can you repeat that one more time?
If you had time to give yourself to fail, what would you have tried?
I think I would have gone maybe a little bit more complex with the Z bag, maybe more like a duffel, possibly. I thought that could have been interesting, or also like a fanny pack. Did you ask about material as well, or?
Yeah. What kind of
I was thinking more of like a heavier nylon, like the ones you see on backpacks more so, or even like those pencil cases. Even like go with an even more heavier and kind of maybe more reflective material, I think would have been cool. So that's probably what I kind of would have gone more about, and more looking into different linings and stitch patterns and stuff.
All right. Any more? We've got a couple more designers. We got some more designers to go. So, so our next student is Claire Bryan.
Hello, my name is Claire Bryan. I am a fourth year industrial design student. I am from the Grand Rapids area. I like furniture and interior design, spatial design. I am very interested in the user experiences in the physical form and how people interpret spaces. I love to learn new skills about making and designing, and I did a project based off of dogs, which I love. So the canine kit is inspired by the lack of a cohesive kit that allows pet owners to have a one-stop shop for where to go. I designed the products and then the graphics that are on the bed, the collar, and the leash. The pattern and the theme was meant to be really playful and gender neutral so that it could be more appealing to different types of customers and different customers who have different dogs. It includes a collar, leash, a bed that have been hand stamped with a print that I designed, a bowl, a toy, and then a box that is shaped like a doghouse that holds it all together.
All right, do we have any questions for Claire?
What inspired the pattern for your products?
I think it was just inspired based off of a lot of mood board stuff that I had seen on Pinterest. I really loved the fun organic shapes and the kind of crazy colors, not too gender specific, and it just seems like a really fun pattern to me, and I thought that other people would really appreciate it. And I actually was doing this project as we were kind of starting Amateur Hour, and we decided that we really liked the organic shapes concept and kind of went with that. My mood board for this project was very similar to the mood board of our branding of Amateur Hour.
So the bowl, the inside of the bowl looks pretty interesting. What is the thought process behind the shapes inside of the bowl?
So slow feeder bowls have been really popular for a few years now. I don't know if you can really tell in these pictures, but they are dog bowls that have different ridges inside of them, and so the dogs don't eat as quickly as they normally would with a smooth bowl. And this just helps with digestion and stuff. And there was a little bit of research that went into that, into kind of trying to maintain the best looking products as well as the best functioning products for the health and safety of the pet.
Have you had the chance to test different sizing? Because obviously for smaller dogs, what about for the 90-pound pit bull that thinks it's a lot?
I couldn't really hear that person, but I think they were asking about the sizing. So I looked at dimensions of existing products and kind of adjusted them from there. And if this were to be manufactured, it would be done in a variety of sizes to accommodate the different sizes of dogs. I created these ones with a specific type of, or like specific size of dog in mind. And the dog in the photograph is one of our professor's dogs. Her name is Daisy, and she fit the bill perfectly for my dog model that I needed.
Any more for Claire? Okay, we're going to move on to Adrian. Adrian, are you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
All right.
Thank you all to you team to putting this together once again. My name is Adrian Meiling. I'm a sophomore in industrial design. The project I'm bringing up today is called Isola, and in Latin that means island, which is a good representation of how a stool and a floor can be by himself, and that was a good name for the project. So let's see, the project brief was to create an assembly process that could be snapped together quickly and could be manufactured. The whole idea of becoming an industrial designer is also to sell myself as a person, and that's why I chose to have my logo be part of this. The two uses of this stool is for storage and seating, which was a big key in designing this product. To the right, you can see a lot of ideation, which I came about starting with my logo and ending up with the product. To the bottom, you can see a little bit of the drafts that came about to become the stool that it is today. Once again, this stool can be seen in the art gallery downtown, and the materials I chose were plywood and steel. And yep, that's Isola. Thank you.
Questions for Adrian?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you talk about your decisions, the balance between comfort and design, and keeping true to your interest of maintaining a logo?
Right. Well, comfort is always a big key in designing, and I think the stool, I wanted to make it very sturdy, and by making it sturdy, I was able to create a big platform that is able to rest any person, any sizes. So I think the width was big enough. I think it's about a foot, and the comfortability came from the softening of the edges when I CNC'd them.
Do we have any more questions for Adrian?
Well, I guess when I go to the gallery tomorrow, will I be able to sit on it and test your theory?
Really, I think there's going to be a post that says not to sit on it, but Professor Ross, if you want to sit on it, I will let you have it.
All right. If I break it, I'll buy it.
No, we'll just CNC it again. That's the whole purpose. You can CNC it again. So
we'll put a sign that only Professor Rost is able to test out
100%.
the structure of the material of the objects in the gallery.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Adrian,
How
did you
hard
say? Go ahead.
No, all you. Go ahead.
Did you say, Adrian, that there was also storage?
Yes.
Can you explain that, please?
Yeah. So within the stool, when you see those two cuts, between those you can put books and all sorts of utensils. The idea was this to be inside a home. So being multi-purpose was another key component of this product. You can slide books and slide any other things that you want.
Cool, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Well, I think that saying that, it seems like that would also offer some structural integrity. If you're starting to put things in between, you mediate some lateral movement,
right,
as well. So
in fact, that was one of the concerns of mine. By spacing these profiles by so much, I was going to lose structural integrity. So I had to kind of think the spacings too. They couldn't be too big or too small. So I think I found that perfect size, so you can also add books, and that could also add more weight and structural integrity.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
All right. So next up, we
Thank you.
have Brian. Brian, I heard you were able to make it. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome.
Yeah. My name is Brian Valachi. I'm an architecture student. I'm right on the tail end of my master's degree. I've taken little bit of a longer stretch than most because I took some time off in the middle for family reasons. While I was on that break, I entered a competition that was put on by the International Interior Design Expo in Toronto, Ontario. It was in the 2018 competition. So my piece is called the Emerald Easel. It's my take on what art students call the art donkey. Art donkeys are traditionally like a bench that has a piece of wood that jams into it that you can use for drawing onto. I looked to kind of simplify that design and kind of modernize it a little bit. The design brief for the competition was all about this surplus of ash from the emerald ash borer, an invasive species that's decimated the population of ash trees in Ontario and in Michigan and all through the Midwest. The ash can't be used by industry because they considered it diseased. And so part of this competition was if we could get our hands on that ash, what would designers do with it? As a winner of the competition, I was supplied with raw pieces of ash to build my piece. That was part of the deal if you were a winner. And so so this piece started out as a giant slab of ash tree, about 6 feet long and 3 inches wide. And then I machined it down with my woodworking tools and cut it into plies. And then I built a mold on my CNC machine and then bent and glued the plies against the mold to basically make my own plywood. What else can I say? The piece was designed originally for children. That's my daughter when she was, I think she was 6 then. She got a little bit big in the middle of me building it, so she's a little bit too big for it in that picture. But the idea is that this piece is going to be used by schools and art galleries and museums so that they can have 20 or 30 of them for when classes show up, and the kids can grab a seat piece and a front piece and slide them together and kind of set up in front of whatever piece they want to, whatever they draw inspiration from, and draw away. Yeah, so that's my piece. And as well, a big thanks to all the organizers of this event. This has been really neat, a really awesome showcase for all of our pieces and a chance for us to get onto a neat, pretty well international stage here with the work that we've done. So thanks guys for doing this.
And we got to give a big thanks back to Brian. We have challenges, obviously, getting our pieces to the show in the COVID-19 pandemic. Brian is across the border in Canada.
Yes.
So we had to ship the piece across, and I put it in the gallery myself when every other designer had to set it up themselves. So we just want to give him a huge thank you for getting this across international borders in the time of a pandemic. All right.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Brian?
I'm
Can you
curious
talk
about
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just curious about the wood bending process. I know you mentioned you kind of created your own plywood, but I was wondering if that was, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, it was really, really one of the biggest challenges that I've ever taken on with a woodworking project. So what I did is I machined the board into a slab that was about 3 inches thick and the exact dimension of the piece as you see it now. And then I put it sideways onto a bandsaw and I cut 1/8-inch plies out of it. And then those were enough that if I just warmed them up a bit, then I could bend them around the mold that I had. So it was basically like, I clamped the bottom 2 pieces together, put glue in between, and then slowly bent them over the mold, and then clamped it all down, and then glued and put another one over top, and then clamped it all back in, and I built the piece up that way. So it was making these plies that was really, really difficult, but really kind of it's what I had to do. The piece itself, I didn't want to get into steam bending on it because with the size of the wood and having zero experience with steam bending, I thought at least if I can cut these things skinny enough and get it to work, that's how I'll go for it. So it was a tough one. Certainly, I used every bit of wood that they gave to me for this one, and probably at least half of it just was thrown in the garbage because it took me so many tries to get the plies cut properly.
So are both of the pieces like molded to the same degree around the same?
Yeah, both pieces are identical. The seat piece is a little bit longer than I guess I'll call it the front piece. So there's just a little bit of a dimensional difference there. So they have a little bit more room to sit, but otherwise it's two pieces that have the identical curve. And then of course the cut that I made into them, it's like a half lap joint, the way that it comes together. And I mean, that had to be opposite to get it in there, but otherwise the pieces have the same curve. So the nice part about it, again, with that institutional use in mind, when they're done with them, you take it apart and those pieces all stack up onto themselves. It nests kind of all perfectly right together.
Any more questions for Brian? So what I gotta say one more cool thing about his piece. It's your daughter did a drawing, right? For the
She did, yeah.
So we have a bonus piece of design art that is there's a magnet right here. So when you see this in person, there's a good drawing from his daughter, and it made me smile when I opened it up.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you.
And Brian, I do have a question.
Sure.
In the lower part of your stool or / seating, isn't there a logo?
Yes.
That's your logo, correct?
That's my logo.
Perfect. Is there more explanation to that, or?
Well, that was while I was still in the master's program. I got let go from an architecture firm, and so at that time, I qualified for a program that helped me start my own business. So I started this small design studio. I'd already had a CNC machine, and I bought some more woodworking equipment, and I made a go of it to go out on my own as my own separate studio. I only lasted a year at it, and then my wife said, "Okay, family's about to get bigger. Let's get a real job." So I shut down my studio, moved everything back into my garage, and then I got a job working for my local municipality in the planning department. So I did this after I moved my business back into my garage while I was working at the city. So it was a time where I still needed to design and I still needed to make stuff, and I wasn't back into my classes yet. So that's my logo. So my business was called Bit Modern, kind of a play on the bits from the CNC and the modernity of the digital age. And I did a lot of CNC projects with whatever I could get my hands on CAD wise. I mean, I was doing mapping projects, I was doing 3D stuff. And again, like with this project, it was just like, hey, let's go for something. Let's see if we can do this. Let's, see if I can make it work. And it was a neat challenge because I've never done this level of woodworking before. And the competition was basically a theoretical one. Like, what would you build? And so I came up with the design, and then they were like, yeah, okay, let's build it now. And I was like, oh, okay, let's try it. So I went for it, and I'm really, really happy with the result. Super proud of it. And, like Alessandra said, my daughter, she was the scale model for the start of it. She got a little bit bigger. And when I was at the show in Toronto presenting it, my wife was pregnant with twins. 8 months along. So I got 3 kids now. The twins are going to be almost the right size for this thing coming up.
Brian, once again, great work. Love it.
Thank you.
Do you see any fights breaking out over who gets to use this first?
Fights.
Now you're gonna make another one, Brian.
I know, I have to get another one on the go. I've got it's always the biggest battle is whether you buy 2 of everything and let them have their way, or you buy 1 and let them learn how to share. I think I'm going to build another one for this.
All right. There's no more questions. We'll move on to our next designer, who is Daisha.
Hi, I'm Deja. I'm in the Masters for Interior Design. So I know I wanted to do a side table with 3 legs, and in our furniture and millwork class, we had to do a precedent study, and I did mine on the designer duo Doshi Levian, and it was after their Earth to Sky series, and one of their light fixtures uses this really nice aluminum that is typically used for foreign cars. And they had it in this light fixture, and it had this like very cool organic form. And I was like, I really like this idea of making metal look like it was molded because it doesn't like naturally take on that curvy form. So I wanted to shape it into something that felt natural. So I used a cut wheel to cut the tabletop and that bottom stabilizer piece from a piece of steel, and then a grinding wheel to play with the shape and get it into that like puddle type shape, smooth out the edges. And then just pieces of steel for the legs, which worked out perfectly to contrast the organic shape of the tabletop.
How
there
did you
others?
pick your, go ahead, Mary.
Are there other sizes?
No, this is the one and only that there is, but I would potentially make it into other colors and sizes if somebody wanted it.
How did you pick the color palette for this one specifically?
I was inspired by the shimmery back plate of the light fixture from the Earth to Sky series. They did kind of a gold shimmery with a navy blue. But really I was just at Myers picking out spray paint, and these two colors felt like they would look great to me together.
I do have a question, like kind of going on the paint. Is it just like a single layer of spray paint? Because it looks in the light like it's, if you see it in person, you see the beautiful changing, like the blues will change and the shimmer will change. Is that anything to do with how you painted?
I practice a lot on pieces of cardboard because I wanted to have more depth. So I would like practice how many times I had to go over. So I would say that it's more than one layer but I only sprayed it one time. Like I didn't go back and sprayed it again after it was dry.
And you said this was steel, right?
Yeah.
Did you consider powder coating it to try to get the colors?
I think if I did it again, I would do that for sure. I would use like a more durable paint because I noticed over time that the spray paint was starting to chip. So I would do something more durable next time around for sure.
Sorry if you already said this, but was this your first time working with metal like in this way?
Yeah, it was my first time. And it was my first time using a welding machine, which was really cool. And I would work with it again.
All right, and a reminder too, if you guys have questions for the designers that you don't ask in this slot, you can always ask it again at the end of the presentation. Do we have any more for Daisha? Okay, we're going to move on to our next designer, who is Kara.
Hi guys, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Kara. I'm a junior in the graphic design program. And my project, Conspiracy Factory, it started as a end of semester project for my graphic design 2 class in the spring, earlier this year. And the prompt for the project was to choose any topic and use a means of graphic production to explore that topic. And I've just always been really interested in sort of like the psychology behind conspiracy theories and just how crazy some of them can get. So I wanted to create my own set of fictional conspiracies that sort of like bordered the line between like believable and just like totally way out there. So this is one of about 15 different conspiracies that I created and graphics that I paired with them. And this one was printed on postcards using a Riso printer. And it was printed by Takeout Studio in Detroit. If any of you know Gerald, one of the professors at LTU, he runs that studio. So it was super cool to actually have some of my designs printed, like mass printed onto postcards that I could hand out to people.
And there is
those are also available in the gallery if people come and visit in person, you can pick up a couple of those to send to your friends or hang on your wall. I know I definitely did.
I already took one. I have a question about sort of the research you did behind this. Were there conspiracies that you stumbled on that you ended up really enjoying learning about? Like, was this a terrifying process to learn about conspiracy theories, or was it more of a fun process for you?
It was definitely a mixture of both. I have some family members that are a little bit, let's just say, a little bit crazy with their conspiracy theories. So I was already familiar with, the degree that some people can take them to. And actually, I don't know if anyone saw this, but yesterday Donald Trump was talking about how dangerous cans of soup are. So in a way, some of my conspiracies are coming true. But yeah, it's kind of it's a black hole of that you can just get lost in, just looking at all the conspiracy websites.
So why soup, not an elephant?
That's a good question. It could have been anything, I guess. My goal was to just pair sort of the language that I would find on different conspiracy theories and just pair them with super mundane objects. So soup was just kind of a random one.
And perhaps you've seen the Seinfeld episodes of the Soup Nazi and that whole, is any reference to that?
I have not seen that.
Oh, it's good.
When Kara's podcast comes out, she has a very detailed explanation for why you should not trust soup.
You want to mention about it a little bit?
I won't go too deep into it, but I'll just tell you that when you learn the truth, that you will want to join the soup cult.
I also want to give a big shout out to Kara. We're all wearing shirts with a logo that she made for us. In addition, the whole slideshow has been designed by us, but the leadership team right now, we have some pretty sweet swag that she was able to do.
I really liked the slogan. It almost reminds me of a really morbid quote that came from, unfortunately, Jonestown, of "Don't drink the Kool-Aid." It kind of has that same ambiance in a way.
That's a great point, Gabby. That and it reaches, it has tentacles. It goes deeper into the farming culture, and it goes into the manufacturing culture, and what Kara just mentioned about what Trump said, which I did not hear, and I can't put that in context. I can't even wrap my head around it. But Jonestown was a horrible situation.
All right, do we have any more questions for Kara? Okay, we're going to move on to our next designer, who is Michael.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Goodwin. I am a senior in industrial design, and this is my project called Pasta 101. That's the working title I got for it. And so for the brief that we were given for this project was design a toolkit. And so in my kind of research, I started thinking about what kind of tool, especially in the kitchen, there's all these different kind of tools you have. And so I wanted to design a kit that would allow you to you would have all the tools to complete a specific task, and that task I chose was to hand make pasta, because it's a very traditional thing that not a lot of people know how to do. And so with this kit, it gives you all the tools that you need to, once you have the pasta dough, then you can make it into a bunch of different types of pasta. So the tools I included in there were a gnocchi board. On the bottom side, there's some ravioli stamps. And then I had included rolling cutting blades in the design so that you can make like pasta, like linguine, like spaghetti type pasta, and then a rolling pin. Yeah, that's kind of what drove me to it. It was a lot of fun for me to build it. Like cooking is kind of a big like thing in my family. It's a big like part of our heritage and how I like communicate with my family. So this was like a project that was like really close to my heart. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I have just kind of pasta questions for you. Do you have a favorite pasta shape? And do you have a favorite pasta sauce?
So my favorite pasta shape, I really like. I've even in all my research, gnocchi definitely stood out for me. Like gnocchi or the little like I think they're rotel, the little like bow ties. And then my favorite kind of sauce is like a vodka sauce, like the orange one.
Vodka marinara. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. Oh, Sarah wrote no cheese, not a pasta. The Italian in the call shared her opinion. I had a question actually because there are like a lot of pieces in a traditional Italian cuisine that you make pasta in a traditional way, and this is a refreshed way of looking at how do you differentiate your pieces from the traditional way of making pasta and how it's become a toolkit?
So I kind of took this when I was designing it. I was thinking of the ideal user would be someone that had never kind of done this before. So this is like a kit for starters. So like your first time kind of making pasta by hand, and you kind of get the exploration of that on your own.
Also, it feels like more approachable. Is that one of the points that you want to make? I feel like pasta tools are so heavy, bulky. I personally feel like it's hard to invest on them.
Yeah, they're always kind of bigger, and like a lot of the pieces are like they're very like chrome and kind of like shiny, and so that also is kind of intimidating, which kind of drove part of my material choice is that approachability of it and the way that all the pieces all fit together. It can be stored all on its own, so you don't ever lose any of those pieces. And this is these are a couple pictures of the first prototype, but if you go and see the exhibition in the DCDT, I updated the design a little bit to better encompass kind of the packaging and keeping all those pieces together.
When you were designing the different tools, did you do any testing yourself, like with pasta dough, to see how they worked?
Yeah, I got to do it I got to try like the gnocchi board and the ravioli stamp. Those are like the ones because I haven't been able to get like or find the blades just yet. So that's something I'm going to keep working on. But the gnocchi board and the ravioli stamps were a lot of fun. It was really cool. You can see in that image there to have that movement with the pasta dough kind of roll off the corner and get those ridges in the dough was like a really cool feeling.
Have you tried using plastic for the blades for the linguine cutter?
No, I hadn't thought about using plastic for the blades. That's a good solution.
Yeah, try out some plastic. You can 3D print it because a lot of like the dough cutters that I use for bao buns, it's just like a plastic thing.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to look into that.
All right, do we have any more questions for Michael?
All right, thank you.
We have one question from YouTube. Megan wants to know what challenges you faced with the project.
Some of the challenges that I faced with it, where it was kind of doing the physical prototyping. So where I created this concept in CAD and with like sketching and ideation, but the real challenge was then, this was my first time I actually got to use the CNC to cut the ridges in the top piece. And so that was definitely a good learning opportunity for me to be able to do that, and a kind of that and the attention to detail afterward to make sure that these all, especially the blades, were comfortable to hold and like use.
I'm hearing a lot of CNC parts and pieces. There was one stool that was CNC, and you mentioned CNC in this. What kind of CNC, could you describe the process and what you did with the CNC for this?
So there is two parts, two pieces in this prototype. So I actually modeled these out as individual halves, the ridges in the gnocchi board and then the ravioli stamp on the back. And I got those cut as two separate. So I had to, all of the pieces were in half, and then I actually had to glue them together at the end.
Was this on the CNC in the wood shop down in the wood shop at Lawrence Tech, or did you have a different type of CNC that you were using?
No, this was the wood shop down in the Make Lab while I was still running.
Okay.
And it's CNCs because of this textured, or why did you choose that manufacturing?
That's at the time how I felt that I could best get that texture on the board, on the wood like that. Especially for the backside, I didn't have an imagery of it. For the ravioli stamp, that was kind of the important part because I couldn't exactly stamp, like make all of those by hand. So it was definitely easier for at least that half to be cut out by the CNC.
Did you consider having your roller have multiple blades so that it can cut more than one strip at a time?
Yeah, I thought about that. And then my original intention for having three blades was they would each have different angles to them, or like they're each different cutting blades. So then with each one, then they'd have a marking on them, and you could cut out a different. You just switch out the blade, and you could have a different type of pasta on your hands.
Very cool.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next designer, who is Gergana.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces. So I am a part of this exhibition with my video installation piece called Time by Stills. It focuses on femininity and its delicate but strong connection with nature. These themes are intertwined in this video collage by exemplifying the female body with symbolic focus on fertility and motherhood and this is achieved by juxtaposing skin and flora. I have always been interested in historically how nature and the female body have always gone hand in hand, both in literature and art and figures in speech and many different languages. And by visually combining these, I aim to amplify that significant connection. Another very important aspect of this piece is time, which has been such an important part of our lives lately, living in a world of a global pandemic. Many people have rediscovered their connection with nature and managed to reorder their priorities thanks to the newly found free time, which until a year ago, it was almost impossible to think of in this such busy work-focused lifestyle that all of us were living. So now that we all get to stay at home and spend some time with our families or with nature, we have the opportunity to rethink a lot about what is important for our lives and find new connections. So this newly discovered freedom has allowed me to focus on getting in touch with the divine feminine, and has provided the opportunity to discover finally this new and deep connection with nature that I was missing for so many years from my life.
Why black and white?
So most of my work, especially my artwork, is black and white because from the very beginning, when I started doing more emotionally based and art focused work, I wanted people to be able to focus on the emotions and focus on the form with as little distractions as possible. That's why pretty much all of my photography work is a silhouette in the foreground, and it goes to complete pitch black in the background. I think it achieves a certain level of mysteriousness, which I like. But then again, it allows the viewer to focus on what is truly important in terms of emotional appeal and moral message.
I'm kind of wondering, as I'm someone who enjoys photography myself as well, do you prefer photography or videography?
So videography is actually a medium that has been around me for way before my graphic design career started, but I was always so afraid to get into it. It's always been something that I have admired, but kind of like cautiously from a distance. And then in my last semester in college, I had to take a videography class, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail. But then it allowed me to discover a medium that I'm very interested in now. And it allowed me to push myself with quite limited skills to be able to create work that's on par with my photography work, with my graphic design work, with which I've had experience for many years. So it was a challenge, but it was a very fruitful one.
Were you able to grow these plants yourself, or were they just out and about?
Yes, all of these plants are mine.
Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. I kill all
And
of
they're
my
still
plants.
alive.
Oh, that's the most impressive of all.
I know, right? Well, 2 out of 3 are succulents, so I would have been a very bad plant grower if I let those die.
I've definitely killed a few succulents, so it's still some work.
So I have a question or a comment or both. So we're looking at this on a screen. I suppose nobody's looking at anything projected, but in the gallery, I noticed this when I was there earlier in the last week or later last week. The projection is much larger. How do you feel that affects our relationship with your artwork?
I was actually very excited when the team approached me with the suggestion to present this as a video installation and a projection piece, because when I created it, I didn't really have a projection presentation in mind. And I think being in a big open white gallery space and blown into such bigger proportions, it's a lot more impactful and a lot more emotional. So I'm definitely I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to see it at such a big scale. Steve Coy used to say in our sculpture class that if you make a small scale installation big, it always looks so much better and so much more impactful. And I think it's the same with video work. I think it's a lot more stronger, and that was the right way to present it.
And it is in the gallery. It is viewable. Two options. We have a computer that is facing out, as well as the screen, because on some super sunny days, some of the beautiful contrast in this is lost. But if you are more interested in the piece, you can always look at the computer that we have it running on as well. All right, do we have any more questions for Gergana? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next designer, who is Amelia. She here?
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. I was assuming something like that was happening.
So
No worries.
I'll repeat myself since no one heard me say anything. My name is Amelia Vilke. I'm a first year architecture and interior architecture student. My piece was made originally for a furniture and millwork class, and the brief that was given was to pick a furniture designer and then stem some inspiration from their work and research them, and then create your own piece. So I was inspired by Charles Rennie McIntosh. In his later pieces, he uses angular geometry. That's why I wanted to create some very sharp angles in mine, and found that one of the most important components in the piece. I used walnut and red oak for the wood, and I also used woven cotton yarn to bring in a softer appearance to the already rigid piece. The reason why I chose two different types of wood was Charles, he used a lot of oak in his pieces, but he would paint them in like black lacquer. I didn't want to paint my piece. I wanted to see the grain of the wood. So I thought to have that like little dark aspect, I would add a dark walnut to get my point across. For the connection, I used no screws. I only used wooden dowels and like wood glue. And that's it.
What was your process behind choosing not to use metal screws and only using wooden dowels?
I think that it's such a rare find nowadays to find a piece that's connected with just wood dowels, because everyone just like in manufacturing just goes straight to the screws for easy stability or have it structurally sound. I figured out a different way which I can accomplish that by using wood and keeping like the idea of how they constructed furniture pieces hundreds of years ago.
What is the inspiration behind the name for this piece?
I had a really hard time picking a name. So it's a mixture of my last name and a version of my dad's, because he was one to help me figure out the angles and how to make this bench structurally stable. So I wanted to incorporate a little name it, like both of us worked on it.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the photograph on the left-hand side, which is the overall image, there seems to be an overall tension in at several levels. One, when I learned to ice skate, I remember trying to skate straight, but then my legs would go out and I would fall on my bum. But then the other tension is between the hard surface and the soft surface. I'm sorry. Is that something that you considered, or am I just interpreting it from my own experiences?
Can you like explain like your
Right.
thoughts
Well,
more?
I think the easiest one is the tension between the hard surface of the wood and the soft surface of the back.
Oh, right.
So there's a tension there. You know, where if I were to approach this and want to sit down, would I sit on the soft side or the hard side, or lean back on one of those sides? The other part is, you know, the way the legs are splayed out seems structural, but also awkwardly structural in a way where it's right in between collapsing and holding it up. That's just my observation.
Well, so where it's the softer fabric and the wood, there is a tension, and the dowel I used, I don't think it's not strong enough with the weave that I did. So in order to fix that, I would use a different type of dowel to hold it structurally stuff. So it'd be more stable and you wouldn't see that like little incline. It is stable. Granted, when I did it the back, it didn't have that as much reinforcement. So if you sit, the back could kind of like not support you, but the seat itself could. So that's one of the things I am planning on fixing in this project. But I wanted for you, the legs are at an awkward angle and don't seem structurally sound. That's where I had my father's help, because when I first told him the idea, he's like, that is not going to work. It's not going to support anyone. So it's actually the legs are sandwiched between the front piece of wood, and then there's another piece of wood behind it. So they're structurally sound and can support anyone.
Okay, thanks.
Again, only Professor Rost can sit on the design pieces.
I'll give you my feedback tomorrow afternoon.
I'd prefer if you don't lean back on it at the moment.
All right, sounds good.
All right, do we have any more questions for Amelia? Okay, so we'll move on to our next designer, who is Megan.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm currently a junior in industrial design. My project called Back to Nature I made last year when I was a sophomore. The prompt for the project was to create a household object with the CNC machine used in part of the assembly, essentially around the concept that the CNC allows for quick assembly. So, and the idea is that anyone can assemble your sort of household object if they wanted to. That's sort of the bigger, broader picture we were looking at, is the ease of access that people can have to designs using CNC and other fast prototyping machines. So I wanted to create a watering can because I'm generally inclined to nature and plants. I personally keep a lot of plants, and I started ideating on watering cans, and generally my designs are more free-flowing and organic and complex, basically really difficult to produce actually in person. So this project was kind of a challenge for me with the taking my design into the physical world. So I tried to go for a more simple geometric design as advised by my professor, and I ended up using red oak because the CNC machine I found would be a lot more successful for me if I used a hardwood that was less likely to splinter or get damaged, considering that I'm pretty new to building with wood. And I also had a pretty short time frame, so I didn't want to have to go through any of those issues that might set back my project.
So I think you mentioned the a little bit of the sort of I think it is open source manufacturing. So is this like is this something that you would plan on, like anyone can download these CNC files and then they can make this and assemble this watering can themselves?
I think ideally that would be my plan. The CNC work that I did was pretty minimal, so I would probably modify the plan that I have right now in my CAD work a bit, because pretty much half of the woodworking was just done using traditional woodworking machines, but the CNC was used mainly for the two sides that have those ridges on it, to kind of focus more on that geometric style that I was going for.
So I got a question about working with tools, because I run a shop out of my garage.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel working with the tools and shaping everything? How was the process for you?
I'm fairly new to woodworking, so I did have the assistance of the nice people in the wood shop at LTU on campus. I mainly brought all of my ideas to some of the nice people working there, and they really were dissecting a lot of my designs. And I think a lot of time as designers, we have these crazy ideas and then we have to dial it back a bit. So that's kind of the process I went through, was coming to them with my sort of crazy idea and then adjusting it here and there for a couple of days before I actually was able to have them help me do the work. So it was a bit of a challenge. Definitely, I think I'm going to have a lot of progress and growth going forward from where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose to use wood?
For the CNC machine, I felt it was, as a student, a very stable and cost-effective material. I didn't want to break my wallet, and I also wanted to make sure that I got a clean design in the end that was very presentable. So that's why I went with wood.
All right, do we have any more questions for Megan?
So if you were to do this project again, would you do it with the same material or would you change it up?
I feel like I definitely would want to explore other materials. I think color is something that I'm really drawn to, and I like changing it up a lot. So I would probably go for something with a bit more contrast and maybe a few different types of wood altogether. I think would create a really interesting look.
All right, any last questions for Megan? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next designer, who is me. Hello, I am Alessandro Pagura. I am a senior in industrial design. I'm originally from the suburbs of Chicago, and I moved to Michigan to go to school at LTU. So my project, Lighting for Airports, was inspired by Brian Eno, who is the pioneer of ambient music. He's the first person to call his music ambient music, and his entire thought process behind creating this ambient music, which, to be honest, I love it, but it's objectively boring music. He wanted to create music that people could, it would induce calm and a space to think, which I think is just a really interesting way of looking at music. Instead of grabbing your attention, it was something that would calm you down and let you process your thoughts. So the first album that he created that he called ambient music was It was called Music for Airports. That's Brian Eno's Music for Airports. It's actually one of my favorite albums. I listen to it all the time, like probably once or twice a month, every single month. So this was for our first semester project last year. We had 2 projects each semester, and I wanted to create a product based entirely on the idea of inducing calm in a space to think and making it for airports. So this whole project was based on that, and I ended up with these large scale lights, which are about 7 feet tall each. They're a smaller part of a larger series, but the idea behind these is that they are physical space dividers that can be placed into large public spaces, such as airports, that let people sort of break away from a crowd. If you're having a lot of anxiety, or you just need a space to check your phone, you need a space to do something. I was inspired by a lot of the rolling office furniture as well that acts as space dividers. I wanted to do that, but with lights. And then for the physical forms, I was really interested in I really like conservatories, like the Belle Isle Conservatory in Detroit, Garfield Park Conservatory in Chicago, the Lincoln Park Conservatory in Chicago. I love like sort of the green uprightness of plants, and then the really warm light was a very important part of my project. So I had them designed for our first half semester 8-week project. I prototyped some out of PVC piping. I essentially heated up sand, poured them inside of PVC piping and bent them and strung some LEDs inside. And that was like sort of my flimsy little prototype for this project. Later that winter, an open design call came from a studio that is run by 2 LTU grads, Studio Radish. And it was for their initial show that was co-curated by Foreman Seek called Dish, where if you submitted your design ideas with tech drawings, like essentially a fully formed design to them, they would manufacture it for you for free. So these lights are the product of a collaboration between them and I. They ended up choosing this design for that show, and we worked on the manufacturing together and the collaboration of like how we wanted it to look. And the end result is what you see here is it's sort of their take and a collaboration between them and I on this project that I did. And yes, Professor Rost, you can sit on these.
Oh, that's good to know. Since I'm on the stage, I want to ask a question. You have 2 modules. It's expandable, obviously, and if it's for the airports, how important is the multiples of this? And I see 2 different modules. Do you have plans or designs for different?
Yes,
modules?
I do. So yeah, there are 4 designs. These are the smaller ones. I have one that is 12 feet tall and one that is about 10 feet tall, and they're all different sort of they're basically plant shapes that I liked that are turned into basic geometry, and the way they interlock, and if you layer them, it creates a deeper and deeper separation. So actually, if you ever want to go to my website, it has the full plans for this project on where I wanted to make a design that you can have just one of, like you can just have one of these lights of, but then you can also expand on it by having all 4 variations, placing them out in different ways to create an entire walkway or essentially an entire conservatory of light that you can take refuge in.
Okay. So the base is encouraging people to sit on them.
Yes, and it was interesting. That was something that was really happy about. That came about in the collaboration between Studio Radish and I, that I initially did not plan for the bases to be maybe as tall or to be sat on, but that was something that they thought was pretty interesting. And as soon as they had brought it up, I was like, that's actually a great idea. And it was something that was really a nice surprise that came out of a really fruitful collaboration.
Thanks.
I have a question. So, well, you said it was one of the biggest products that you've designed and prototypes for, probably. It's what do you think the effect of prototyping on this? Because when you sketch something, it's much more manageable. And how did the prototyping process work, and what were the effects of it in your design?
This is very interesting. This is the first project that I really I had to prototype full scale, so it was not something that I had initially thought of when I was sketching. So I was I had some designs, and then I knew as soon as I started to play with, I used PVC pipe as an intermediate sort of physical iteration tool, and then I realized a lot of the shapes that I wanted to do were not as feasible, were not as realistic, especially for weight and how they would sway. So I would say that the final shapes are a result of me realizing the physical limitations that height and weight would have on how flimsy they would be staying upright. So it was I would say the physical iteration and the prototyping that I did with the PVC piping brought me to the most stable conclusion. So basically the function of them needing to stay up and act as lamps guided me to my final forms.
So how tall is the base part that you sit on?
The base part, I actually haven't measured it, but I would eyeball it to be about 15 to 16 inches tall on this one, and then probably about 17 inches tall on that one. This is the better seat. Professor Ross can give me the feedback on it though.
No, I want sitting privileges.
Okay, we'll expand the sitting privileges to LTU staff.
Given the heights, are those bases, is that concrete?
No, this is actually wood. There's two ways of wood. So this is the sidewall is bent wood, and then the top is almost like a wood top. So it is like a thin part, and then it has a smaller setback that sets on top, and then there are weights actually that go under them that keep them upright.
Gotcha. Very good.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions on this, we will move
What
on.
covers the light now? I know at one point you had cloth on it, because I've seen iterations, but what did they do with it, Radish?
So this is a form of latex that when heated up will contract. So actually, if you touch it in the gallery though, please don't touch it, but it is like a latex rubber glove surface. It is actually pretty surprising when you touch it, but it's exactly like a rubber glove texture. It's about that thickness as well.
Were you allowed to be involved in the actual production of these once you got out of prototyping, and when the Radish studio, when they were building them, did you get to help out?
I was not physically able to work on them, but I was always in the loop of advice. Like they would send me pictures and I would talk back. That was like sort of my first process of ever handing my design kind of over for someone else to build. So it was a little bit of a nerve-wracking process. It was a learning process, but they really did an amazing job with the lights and on the physical side of it. Okay, so we're going to move on to the last little portion of our presentation. So now that you have seen all our wonderful design pieces, this is them all together downtown in the Detroit Center for Design and Technology, which is where it is physically viewable. So as you can see, the gallery map that we had made, we stuck to and made an in-person walking path because we have to limit social distancing in some way. So we wanted to find a fun, engaging way to have people experience this gallery in sort of a walking pathway, similar to a treasure map that we wanted to match up to the fun and whimsy that we had originally intended for this gallery. So as you can see, it's just all of our design pieces there that we have. And here here is a short little walking tour of the gallery. Obviously, we hope that you spend a little bit more time than this video of walking through the pieces. All right, so with that, I'll hand it over to Evelyn to plug our medias.
Closing out our event, thank you all so much for coming, and thank you for looking at all of our pieces digitally. If you want to see more of it digitally and you want to read up more about our artists, you can visit us on our website at ltuamateurhour.com. And you can also look at all of our stuff on the Instagram at ltuamateurhour. And then when our podcasts come out, our first one should be coming out on Friday. You can view them all and listen to them all on YouTube, and you'll get to hear a little bit about each of the pieces and each of the designers and their whole backstory. For Kara's piece, you can hear about why you cannot trust soup. And then for Steve Rost, if you want to sit on the pieces in real life again, you can go and visit it at the DCDT. And everyone else, you can go and see all of the works at the DCDT. And you can take Kara's posters home.
So for visiting it in person, we have an Eventbrite sign up. We are limited to 4 people at a time with masks and social distancing because we want everyone to be safe in this gallery. Right now, we do have some more limited time slots, but if you have, if there are times when you want to see the gallery during the week that we don't have a time slot for, give us an email. We'll see how we can expand our viewing points as we want to see when you guys want to see the gallery. So that's sort of an update on that. So I would keep an eye on the Eventbrite slots calendar. We will try to expand it to have more viewing as the month of design goes on. And with that, do we have any questions either for our designers or about this entire event? And thank you so much for sitting with us this time as well.
Well done, guys.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your help. There has been our sort of faculty go-to for this event. It's been, but really most of the leadership team, we've done almost all of this, but she has helped us out in getting us what we need and what we want. And then a big thank you to the DCDT as well for letting us have the space.
Thanks,
Well, thanks to you guys. Oh, sorry. Thanks to you guys for creating this. Yeah.
Ditto.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. I think what has made this experience really special is how engaged. That was something that surprised me a little bit. I didn't expect the enthusiasm that we had from the designers who applied. You guys really have made this event what it is.
Alex and I, we weren't sure how many of our own pieces we would have to put in the gallery if other people didn't apply, but you know, we didn't have to fill it up with our other stuff. So thank you everyone for your participation. We really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming to our event.
So going forward in our years, we're going to try to make this an annual event. So for all of our designers who are here, you are more than welcome to apply next year. And we would be honored to have your pieces in the work. And for everyone who's just here to view, we're excited to have you come and look at our work in the future. And then if you follow our Instagram now, you'll be able to see when we're going to do like all of the submissions and stuff for next year. And you can see all of our work and our podcasts on the Instagram.
Just one sec. I'm trying to look at the Q&A. I haven't been able to see the Q&A the whole night.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about attending the event or any of our social media platforms that they can view?
Is there any time slots for later in the day? Like after 5, 6 o'clock?
Not at the moment, but if we do find if there's interest for after 5, 7 o'clock, we will make sure to have viewings for later in the month. So that is something we will look into.
Okay, cool.
And this exhibition will also be up through November, I believe, in the DCDT. So
November 13th.
yes. So if you don't get the chance to in September, it'll be up for a while, depending on how the policies at DCDT and school go. Visiting may be a little bit different, but for now, Eventbrite is the best way to go.
And there is another exhibition going on. So when you get a time slot to see Amateur Hour, there's another event named the Architecture of Convenience, which you will have access to as well. A time slot gets you the run of both galleries for an hour.
We will also have weekend hours the last weekend of September. And if none of our hours work for you and you just really, really want to see everything in person, you can send us an email at ltuamateurhour@gmail.com and we'll see if we can get you a showing. Spelled just the same as our website.
You mentioned about podcasts. How will we see them? What will be the platform they will be published on?
We will publish them on YouTube, but they will also be available at a tab on our website.
And we'll make sure to post about them on the Instagram too, so you get a notification when you turn on our post notifications. And we'll show up in your feed.
Always, Kara has made our brand language so wonderful. So we hopefully you have a nice, joyous, fun experience on your feed whenever we pop up. And if there's also like any just kind of general questions about how we did this, maybe even why we named it what we did, any of that, that's all welcome right now. This is a very casual Q&A.
Yeah, let's talk about the name Amateur Hour. I don't think you mentioned that in the beginning, how you picked that. And then
I think I was real nervous in the beginning. I didn't touch on it. So the name Claire and I came to, it was a decision that a lot of school galleries that had, especially school end of the school thesis shows, we just got the feeling that they tried to be so over professional, so over the top, that we wanted to almost go in the opposite direction and really lean into the fact that we're students, we are amateurs, we do design because we really love design. We've done this event the only reason we've done this event is because we absolutely love what we do and we love the joy of it. So Amateur Hours were originally they're open mic nights. So any creator, poet, any famous one got their start at these open mic nights, and we wanted to treat this in sort of the same way, that is a platform for designers who are starting their careers in school to show off on a big stage like Detroit Design Month.
Well, thank you so much for attending. We're very excited to see you all in person at the DCDT. Hopefully you'll get to see one of us as your tour guides. We won't keep you any longer tonight, but thank you so much to all of our designers for coming out and telling us about their works and their inspirations. And thank you to all of our professors and business professionals for critiquing our work and giving us such great feedback.
Thank you again. And again, that's great. We hope to see you guys soon. All right. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.